I find programming stuff for games very enjoyable, so I came up with this idea. What if I find a skyblock server with an economy and I build up the island as well as the scripts as I automate a bunch of farms and may or may not break the economy. That way we get to see the scripts as well as the island evolve. I ended up picking this server just because I like the name of it. I did not do any research and it turned out to be quite pay to win towards the end, but it did have MCMMO, which is something that lets you level up skills as you do them. So we first get on the island, I decide to expand it a little bit so I have more space, and then I proceed to start very strong by messing up a cobblestone generator. Yeah, I'm not sure how I messed this up because I've done this hundreds of times, but that is not how you make a generator. Now this lava is just gonna turn to obsidian. Even more concerningly, I did this right after. They didn't have the plugin that let you undo this by right-clicking the obsidian with a bucket, so I had to restart the island. But then I remembered I'm Romanian, so I just took every last block of the island before I left. Then I discovered that there's multiple island types, and welcome to our new home. I walk downstairs and I see a cobblestone generator example, but like, what kind of dumbass would mess up a cobblestone generator?
Hold up. Wait a minute.
I could ignore all the ores and the chest and the tree, which were pretty much valueless on this server. They sell for no money. But then again, I am Romanian, so... Hey, welcome to our second home. So this time I made a proper cobblestone generator and it's time to automate the first task. Now I could just sit here and hold left click, but the whole purpose of this is automation. So first you want to buy one of these. If you don't have one, you can also use an Arduino or Raspberry Pi. Then put it on top of your mouse. Mechanical engineers might refer to this as static loading. I, however, prefer to work with software, so I just did this instead. I would say that's much better, but it's pretty much identical. Before I continued mining, I wanted to get the best pickaxe that I could, so I would be the most efficient while doing it. I was kind of broke and didn't really have any diamonds. Then I discovered voting, which for Minecraft servers is even more corrupt than in Romania. They pretty much bribe their members for votes, but hey, I'ma gladly take these blocks of diamonds. I made a bunch of diamond pickaxes and my plan was to make it scan the durability, and whenever one was about to break, it would just switch to the next one. I got a chicken spawner and an enchanting table so I could enchant the pickaxes, and now it's time to start automating. Simulated input with Python can only be done on focused windows and it pretty much takes control of your mouse. This would mean that I would have to be tabbed into Minecraft at all times and it would get very annoying because I couldn't do stuff. So an alternative would be running this on a virtual machine so that I can use my main machine and not care about it. And that's what I did. But then I realized I only have Linux and I was too lazy to install a Windows VM. The only thing I hate more than spending 3 weeks just for a video to completely flop is using this abomination of an operating system.
Linux is a semi, Windows is a car.
Before doing that, I learned about MineScript, which is something that lets me access the game internally with Python scripts with built-in functions so I can control my character without having to be tabbed in. But I didn't feel like learning that, so I just said, nah, I'll do it my way. I should not have done it my way. So then I proceed to give myself the Linux experience, which Linux users could only call better than Windows. So after the most enjoyable 15 minutes of my life, the game was finally running. Little did I know we were just getting started. I thought I accidentally opened Counter-Strike with how much spin botting there was, but then I lowered the sensitivity a bit and now it felt more like playing on a controller. This was completely unplayable and I believe it was because of the way that the VM interpreted mouse input in 3D games such as Minecraft. So I spent about 40 minutes trying every solution imaginable to fix it and it just didn't work. So I just said, I guess I'm gonna tug it out. Spent a while longer trying to get my inventory to not be transparent by modifying texture packs. If you think I already triggered the Linux users, wait till you show them what I did to my Python environment. I ended up making a simple external mining bot that would just move left to right every now and then and sell items when the inventory would be full. After realizing that the last 3 hours of my life did not bring me the greatest of joy, I just decided to rage quit. I should have just used MineScript from the beginning. So I set up MineScript, I got my interpreter to work, and now we're cooking. I played around with it a bunch, trying to see how it can pull in-game data and print it out on the screen. In this case, I was using the inventory data, and then I found a way to check if the inventory is full. I was absolutely baffled to find out that it actually works on online servers. But now here comes the most important part. Can it run in the background? It was looking promising, but then I remembered that if I alt-tab it pauses the game and this could ruin everything. This would have just killed the whole project. I thought I had to do some very complicated stuff to fix this, or it was impossible, but then it turns out that Minecraft just has a hotkey that lets you disable it in one press. Here I was alt-tabbed and I even dragged VS Code over the screen and it was still mining, so it works. Oh, what I'm about to do to this server, oh boy. I set up an AFK mining script that would sell my items every now and then I got to cooking. Quite literally. When I got back, I got kicked, so either my script broke or the anti-cheat caught me. Turns out that if you do the same action for a while without moving, it kicks you. So from now on in all my scripts, I just made it jump every minute and it just bypassed it. So right now, this is how we make money. Who did that? The cobblestone generator and the spawner. The cobble gen gets me mining XP and ores that I can sell, and the spawner also gives me mob drops as well as XP that I can turn into custom enchantments. So ideally I would farm both of them at the same time. So that's what I started doing. I made a water stream that will push all of the chickens from up top right next to me as I'm mining so that they die while I'm mining. Because I refused to research how to do it properly the first time, I had to redo it like 5 times. Then I wasted a bunch of time learning how redstone clocks worked in creative because I wanted to one tick a lava bucket on top of them to get cooked chicken. Then I realized it's not even worth it because it sells for pretty much the same, so I just ended up using a campfire. But before I started AFK mining for a couple hours, I kept hearing people say that the best moneymaker early on is fishing. And so began the fishing arc. I wrote a script that printed out all the entities around me, and then I started filtering it for fishing bobber, which is both my fishing rod and the fishing entities that I'm supposed to catch. Then I wrote a print loop that scanned the 3 variables that I thought were most relevant to catching a fish. Then I realized that the most important ones are the Y values for the position and velocity, specifically the changes between scan cycles. Eventually I got it working, but for some reason my rod kept disappearing, which pretty much never happens in normal Minecraft. So I assumed it had something to do with the server. Maybe it was unloading certain chunks or deleting entities. I tried to mess around with it for a bunch, but then I realized I don't even need to do that. I can just add a timer, so if it doesn't find a fish within 20 seconds, it just restarts the cycle.
I'm the best programmer on earth, as evident by divine intellect.
So now it goes left, right, sells items, throws the rod, waits for a fish to show up, catches the fish, and then repeats the cycle. It's beautiful. But that didn't last very long because I made a groundbreaking discovery that if you shift next to crops, they grow a lot faster. And they also sell for a lot of money. So this kind of just threw fishing and mining out the window. This would normally not be all that useful because you would have to do so many actions per second to do it efficiently. But since I'm automating everything, none of that matters. And the profit is insane. So began the farming arc. I made a little platform and decided to experiment with the concept to see how it worked. Then I checked the shop to make sure that I should be doing this with wheat in the first place instead of any other crop. It turned out not to be the best option and there was a much more profitable one, but we'll get to that later. I made my first prototype script, which didn't really work too well, but then after letting my Minecraft character snort a bunch of white items and also remaking the script and optimizing it, it started working much faster. First I wanted to push the items into me, so I put down a bunch of pistons, but then it turns out that they just turned the farmland into dirt, so that didn't work. I expanded the platform quite a lot, and then I made a dispenser water flashing system. This is what my original script looked like, and as you can see it's not too well optimized because it tries to click on blocks that are outside of its reach and the timing isn't quite that good. Also when it starts sneak spamming, it makes sure that every single block is fully grown, which is just completely inefficient and wastes a lot of time. I found a rapid growth area, which let me determine the most efficient planting positions, and then I made my script plant 4 times to cover the whole area. Then I tested the flashing system, and then I also wanted to see how much money we would get. Ho ho ho, this has a lot of profit potential. This might be a good time to explain how the server economy works. You can sell items to the game shop or to other players. Stuff like farming supplies or ores just get sold to the game shop. The other players can set up their shops to whichever prices they want, or they can list stuff on the auction house. This makes it a supply and demand market for those items, while easier to get items just get sold to the shop for a fixed price. This will matter a lot more later when I start making a whole lot of money. It's also used for island upgrades, so you can make even more money. After optimizing the script and making an automatic module where it would do everything by itself and then repeat the cycle, I also made a redstone clock for the water flashing system so that I wouldn't have to flip a lever, I would just press a button. Right now I could actually make this faster by setting multiple island set homes and having teleports instead of walking, as well as using Minecraft tick loop rather than sleep. But for now, this is what we have. So let's run through the code. I look at all the plantable positions and then right click them with a seed one by one, which then looks like this. Then I spam crouch to rapidly grow the crops. Then I walk to the next position and repeat. I walk to the water button, press it, walk to the center, collect every item, sell the wheat, and then if necessary sell the seeds before I get the next batch of seeds so I can keep replanting without getting a full inventory. But I also don't run out of seeds. This code is so bad it's actually triggering me. Okay, I'm gonna remake it. Yeah, I kind of forgot that I destroyed the farm while remodeling the island. So I just made a little test bench and we're gonna calculate how much more efficient the new code is. This is the old one and this is the new one. Whoever thought this red screen was a good idea needs to get cancelled. This is the old one with 4.8 seconds, pretty low accuracy and success rate and very slow shifting. And this is the new one averaging 3.7. That's a 30% increase. Another optimization would be having 2 separate platforms so that when the water flushes one of them, I wouldn't have to sit around waiting for like 8 seconds. In this game, I can do /is set home and it will set a teleport location for the island. Minescript is very fast at executing commands and does it pretty much instantly. So I could just set homes on all 8 of these positions and just have my character teleporting straight on them so I wouldn't have to walk. This would save me a lot of time and overall it would probably be twice as efficient. So just optimize it and make a new platform. Well, it's not quite that easy. You see, all of these clips that you see might only take a few minutes or seconds, but it takes me several hours to build them out and to create and optimize all these scripts. So before I start making a huge farm, I need to see if it's even the most efficient thing I can do. So I started experimenting a bit and seeing the best crop to grow. Then I discovered berries. They're way easier to grow than any other plant because I don't have to replant them, I just simply right click them. They also grow extremely fast with the shift spamming. And best of all, they sell for a really high price. So this farm was a lot easier to build, had 10 times the income, was more reliable, and very easy to scale. So this was the farm that I ended up using for the rest of the series pretty much. When it came to money, nothing could beat berries and even better batteries, but we'll get to that later. So all the other projects that I made were more for fun and XP gain rather than money. And then to prove that my shamelessness knows absolutely no bounds, I decided to not only use this spin botting berry mechanic, but to do it on multiple accounts at the same time. Introducing the alt account. On my main, I went to a public pumpkin farm that automatically dropped a bunch of stacks of pumpkins on me that I could easily sell. I really wish I knew this from the beginning because this is like $1 mil an hour. Now let's talk about money. Not that money. An inventory of berries sells for 15k and takes about 20 seconds to a minute to get depending on herbalism level and how well the script is optimized. However, the server has a mechanic that lets you turn them into batteries which are used to power late game robots that high level players buy. And an inventory of berries transformed into batteries sells for 570k. A day after I discovered that, I became the highest income player on the whole server without anyone even knowing who I am. I became the Walter White of batteries and I needed a Jesse. And so this homeless man manifested himself upon my island. He is also the one that gave me 2 spare accounts to use. I don't want to know how he got those accounts, so I will not ask any questions. If you liked the video so far, I would appreciate if you shared it with people that might also like it. So I started building the industrial scale berry farm. Made a little bowl, added some water, made a quick collection system, and put the alt to work. Although he was moving very slowly, so actually, I don't think I can make this joke, can I? So I changed my client settings a little bit and I gave him a special little item and that fixed him right up. This was his perspective. Then I started working on the first prototype for battery crafting. The problem was that I couldn't do it fully internally. I had to do this with external scripts because Minescript had no method of doing it internally. It can't interact with containers. I made a bigger storage system and decided to scale it up to 2 levels, but one single hopper didn't have enough capacity to carry all of that, so this should fix it. Now that is what we call storage. I have enough storage capacity here to fit every stupid comment I've gotten on my cybersecurity videos. Now I was running 2 accounts at the same time and I also optimized the scripts a bit, even though there were multiple optimizations in the future. Look at how many berries we're getting. But now I need to turn them into batteries, and the script that I used to have is not really efficient. As you can see, it's pretty slow and it also clicks on the batteries multiple times, but hey, at least we're getting some batteries. Now let me put into perspective just how rich I was. The average player that's been playing for weeks has a balance of around 500k and their island net worth is well under 100 million. This includes players that bought ranks with IRL money. The top 10 earners of the server make around 1 to 5 billion per day after dumping hundreds of dollars and playing for months. I make the same amount per day while running the farm on low efficiency, but if I were to run 4 accounts at the same time with a battery crafting bot with optimized scripts, which is something that I could set up within 3 hours, I would make well over 2.3 billion per day. Well, how long have I played to reach this income? 4 days. I could also start making 10 billion per day, but I think that's enough for one video. To get some perspective, I sold so many batteries to top players that I sold out their entire shop. Some of them even shut down their shop completely. This guy had a top 3 island and this entire wall was full of chests buying batteries, and now he just removed all of them. And all that's left is this as a joke. Robots are the in-game version of automation. They sell for about 200 to 800 million depending on the type, and they're a late game item. People buy them for $16. I could easily get more than 4 of them every day with my in-game money. This would mean that I'd buy an equivalent of $64 per day or $2,000 per month. For cheaper robots, that figure would be double. This next part just makes me sad, man. So I started my next journey at almost 3 a.m. Keep in mind I hadn't slept, I had a headache and I was feeling like shit. And then I made the most stupid decision I made so far on this server. So I wanted to make a mining bot, but I didn't want to use a normal cobblestone generator. No, I had to be built different. So I decided to make this huge industrial one that's supposed to be the fastest design yet. except it didn't really work. Partially because the guy said it works in a version that it doesn't work in and kind of clickbaited me. Partially because I'm a bit incompetent at redstone, and maybe because of the server itself, or I just built it wrong, I don't know. After a while I got it to work at half efficiency just to find out that it doesn't give MCMMO XP because the blocks are pushed by pistons. And then I just ended up using a very basic model that worked perfectly fine. Installing Lightmatica, trying to configure everything and make it all work while having a headache and not sleeping was really not an enjoyable experience, especially because this entire thing took about 4 hours. And then I just had to tear it down. So then I wanted to make the ultimate farm. I couldn't really get more money than my berry farm because it was just the highest income possible on that server. So I wanted to do something that would level up multiple skills at the same time. Farming, fishing, and mining at the same time. I built a sugarcane, cactus, and pumpkin farm to see which would generate the most money per minute. It turned out to be pumpkins. I made a water slide to push them into me so that I could auto-sell them while fishing and mining. Then I made some fishing ponds and a basic cobblestone generator. Now I could do all 3 actions at the same time. I made a script that would look at different positions in those ponds so that I wouldn't get detected for AFK fishing. And now this is how it looks when all of them are running at the same time. Ah, Minecraft as intended. You love to see it. I was getting pretty good XP, especially for fishing. And during this entire time, you already know my berry farm was still running. The nice part was that I only had to check in on the berry farm every now and then manually to craft them into batteries, but it wasn't really an active thing. So I had a bunch of coordinates that I would randomly throw the rod to. I had a reset function that would sell items and make me move so I don't get kicked for AFKing. I copy-pasted the fishing script that we made earlier in the journey. Then I just added some timers for resets and fishing rod disappearing, and then I paired it all together. Then when it would run, it would randomly select one of those coordinates, look at it, send out the rod, stop mining, look back at the cobblestone generator, start mining again.
But actually, you shouldn't make it that way.
Shut the fuck up. Throughout the entire series, I didn't really want the code to look too well or be hyper efficient. I just wanted it to work. Anyway, so here's how the script looks when everything is put together. Pretty cool if you ask me. So a cobblestone generator is like the most iconic thing in skyblock, and I just wanted to have a really good mining bot because of it. I made a massive chicken spawning tower that would make them fall into lava and kill them so I would get more XP while doing the mining. And I spent a day and a half getting this really nice pickaxe. Just for it to glitch and disappear out of my inventory. This is not supposed to happen, it's a server issue. Yeah, so then I just kind of rage quit. Let's look at the crafting script now, and I'm gonna do a bit more of a deep dive on this one, and I'm gonna talk more about the code than the actual functionality because I haven't really been talking about code all that much in this video. So here's what the script needs to do. First, get the berries out of the chest. Then take them from the inventory and turn them into batteries in this custom interface. Then deposit the batteries in a chest. The problem is that the internal API that I'm using cannot actually take items out of a chest or deposit them. It can only scan the contents of the chest to tell me where the items are and how many there are and all of the item information. So I need to write an external script to withdraw items out of a chest, and I can only use the internals to detect the items. So I wanted to make sure that I understood how the script saw the items in a chest, and I did a bit of experimenting. So from this we can tell that mine script sees them as 0 to 8 on every row, including the player inventory. Now I need to find out where those positions are on the screen so I know where to aim my mouse so I can click them out of the chest. Because Minescript only tells me what slot they're in, not the actual position that I need to click at. So I wrote a script that would take my current mouse position whenever I press space and put it in an array, and then I just went over every single inventory slot and I pressed space. This gave me every position for every chest slot, so now when I get item data out of Minescript, I know how to correlate it with screen coordinates and I know where to click. Then I made it only scan for berries. Now I wanted to see if a chest was even worth the process, because maybe the chest only had 2 stacks in there instead of like 30, so then it would just not be worth the time. So I made it count every berry inside of a chest, and if it was higher than a certain amount, only then would it execute. Here's how you take or deposit items. You can either click them in one by one, you can shift click them, or you can click an item once, shift double click on top of the same item to get your whole inventory full. This is the fastest method, so that's what we're going to be using. But why do I need the whole inventory data? Why not just take the first 2 slots and always use those 2? Well, the chest might not always be full, and it might not be symmetrical either. Also, when it comes to berry crafting, I can't shift double click in that interface, I just have to do normal shift clicks. So now let's look at the final code and see what it does. I have the inventory positions for my normal inventory and the biofuel/chest inventories because there's an offset. In hindsight, I should have just simply added an offset instead of having a whole different variable, but whatever. I have a function that clicks and one that checks if a chest is even worth processing. First, it waits for the container to be open. Then if it sees that it has berries in it, it starts adding the count of the berries to the total count so we can find out how many berries are in the chest. When it comes to slots, the slot number 53 is the final slot of the chest item because everything after that turns into my inventory. Basically, it loops over every item in the chest, and if it's a berry, it adds them all together, and then it compares it to the quantity that I set to see if it should continue or not. Everything runs under a while loop, and it waits for a hotkey, and then it right-clicks the chest that I'm looking at. Turn chest is the main function that runs everything. First, it runs fill inventory with the argument of berries. First, it waits for the chest to be opened, then it loops over every item in the chest, and if the name matches what I put inside of the argument, in this case berries, then it moves my cursor on top of the berry with the method explained previously. Then it clicks it to pick up the item. Now I want to move over to the second one and double click. For this, I'll just add a counter that I increased by 1 after my first click. I had an activated here that would track if I had my first click, but I literally have a click counter, so this is completely useless. I must have been really tired when making this code. That's better. Then for the second iteration, it looks for the next berry, hovers over it, and this time instead of clicking once, it checks if it already clicked in the past, and if it did, then it shift double clicks. The third time it loops, if it already executed those two commands, then it will just break the loop. Find, hover, click, find, hover, shift, double click. Then with the item that I'm currently holding in my mouse, click, shift, click, so that if I have space in my inventory, that also goes in, and if I don't, it puts it back in the chest so that it doesn't drop it. Then break the loop. After executing fill chest, it closes the chest by pressing escape, and then it starts making the batteries. First, I make an array of positions that I have to click. I press shift to prepare for shift clicking. Then I add every berry position to the array of clicks that I'm scheduling. Then because the biofuel generator only takes 15 stacks, I need to do it in chunks of 15. I click over every item in the chunk to shove it in, and then I click on the confirm button to turn them to batteries, and then I loop over it again, and I do the same thing until I finish my whole inventory. Then I press escape to close the interface. Then back in the main function, I need to start counting how many batteries I have in the inventory. If I have too many batteries, it's just inefficient for me to continue without depositing them because I don't have enough space for the berries. And that takes us to the deposit function. I set the teleport location to my current position before I leave so I can teleport back here. Then I teleport to the deposit location, I deposit all of my items, and then I go back to the initial position. Fill chest is pretty much identical to the fill inventory function we just went over. And clear 9 clears an inventory slot so I can right click the chest with my hand because it doesn't work if I try to right click it with a battery in my hand. Now let's take a look at how it actually works in slow motion. I press my hotkey, it opens the chest. Find, click, find, shift, double click, click, shift, click. This has to be the verbal equivalent of throwing up gang signs. Close it, open biofuel generator, start shift clicking every berry in, and then every 15 stacks, stop and click the confirm button. Continue till done, close, clear the 9th inventory slot, set teleport back position, TP to deposit, deposit items, TP back, and it's done. I just realized the clip that I used was an older, less optimized version. I'm not redoing that. But for the full speed one, I will show you the newest version. Speaking of versions, let me show you the first one that I ever made. It didn't even automatically collect from chest, I had to do it manually, and then I pressed the hotkey and it just crafted them. It also clicked on other batteries, and it never clicked the one in the middle for some reason. And this is the latest version. I could have just added a bot sitting in a water stream where all the berries fell, automatically crafting them before throwing the batteries in a chest instead of just having the berry farm. But because I can't simulate the clicks internally for the chests, I would have to use a VM, and I was too lazy to set it up since I was almost done with the video anyway. So this is how the island looks now. At the time of me making this video, I don't think I'm going to be playing anymore, but it was quite fun to make, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think these sorts of videos and projects are the most fun that someone can make in the programming space in general, so I hope it doesn't flop. See you in the next one.